Welcome back to Voices of Impact, where we explore leadership beyond strategy and performance and into identity, alignment, and the kind of impact that lasts. So sometimes the biggest thing that shaped our lives isn't what we choose, but it's more about what we've inherited. So the expectations, right? The beliefs, the definitions of success that were never truly ours. So today I want to invite you to a powerful question. So what if you could break free from the limitations placed on you by others and consciously choose the legacy you're here to create? So I'm excited to welcome Nathaniel Schooler to the show for a deeply powerful conversation on identity, legacy, and breaking generational patterns. Nat is a podcast host, Amazon best-selling author, and entrepreneur who has advised some of the world's leading organizations, including IBM, Google, Microsoft, Oracle, United Nations, is amazing, and the World Economic Forum. With over 400 plus interviews and conversations with globally recognized leaders and public figures, his work sits at the intersection of influence, storytelling, and human connection. But what makes Nat's work truly impactful goes beyond credentials, right? It's his mission. So to help people recognize their own power, overcome limitations, and design lives rooted in truth, not expectations, right? So his perspective is shaped not only by global experience, but by a legacy of leadership and learning passed down through generations, paired with a deep belief in inclusion, empowerment, and human potential. And what makes this conversation especially aligned is what we both believe in, right? That not all expectations we carry are ours to keep, and healing creates space for authentic leadership. So today we're diving into how to break free from generational conditioning through his lived experiences and step into a life that feels aligned, empowered, and fully your own. So honored to have you on the show, Nat.
Thank you. Thank you for such a lovely welcome. I appreciate it very much. It's a
Absolutely.
big topic, this one, though,
Yes.
Vina.
Yes.
There are many dimensions to this, actually, and it's sort of like, yes, we inherit this generational kind of way of we're brought up by our parents in a certain style because they were brought up in a certain style, and then their parents were brought up in a certain style, right? And I think from a personal standpoint, having someone have expectations about what we should do, what we shouldn't do, is a really difficult one. And, we sort of got to this stage. I mean, I'm nearly 50, right? So we got to this stage probably about 50 years ago where people started, or 40, where people started realizing, that they could actually continue the legacy of their families, right? And it's just quite a difficult one because the pressure that we feel from our parents based upon what they want us to do in life and what they think is the best way forwards it's a really difficult challenge, if I'm perfectly honest, because we don't want to do what our parents want us to do.
Right. Absolutely. And I do agree with everything that you're saying, because I think this is a very important topic. And in my own journey, I think we have similar journeys and similar periods of growth where we did have a conversation on, and I'm going to be a little bit deeper into this about, healing generational wounds, whether it's a mother wound, father wound. And I had to look at that this weekend. And I'm like, where did this trait come from? Where did this habit come from? And especially as I'm the first entrepreneur, my family is pretty the traditional conservative family who taught like, hey, take the traditional path. Don't be a trailblazer. And I followed that, but I realized that's not who I am. And my identity is different. And it was, like you said, it's a huge challenge. And that's why I want to have this conversation today. That a lot of people probably can resonate, whoever is listening, and they're never really putting it out there or talking about it. But they're like, has anyone gone through this? How do you navigate this? How do you define your, an identity different from what your parents did, right? So that's the kind of conversation we're having. So thank you so much for sharing that, Nat. So going into your journey, I know you said you started from the factory floor at a young age to advising global institutions like IBM. So how did your early experiences shape your relationship with work and identity? And what does success mean right now for you?
Well, I mean, my father and his father actually were both MIT graduates. And his father was an industrial engineer. He moved from Poland back in, beginning of the 1900s. Actually, and slept on one of his cousin's sofas, put himself through school, worked at a butcher's shop, started a scrap metal business, grew that into a factory making partition walling, right, in New York State. And he obviously worked really hard. Yeah. My father also had a very, very serious work ethic. When I was a kid, he was just working. I mean, he worked all the time. He had a winery, so he was working, next door, right? Admittedly, next door. He built this winery when I was 6 years old, and in the middle of the countryside. And it was difficult because he was working like 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day, but he taught me a lot of stuff about business. I mean, he's 92 now, but he was Britain's leading business management expert for 10 years in the 1980s, right? And he built this business and he worked really, really hard. And that work ethic is something that's passed down to me, most definitely. But his vision of success, right, which is what we're talking about here, we're talking really about the vision of success. It should actually be the vision of happiness. It shouldn't be a vision of success, in my personal opinion. I think there's a misnomer between success and happiness, right? We have this world that we live in where, people become consultants, right? As an example, they work for big corporations and they work, 16 hours a day. My dad did that when he got out of the Air Force and he stopped teaching at MIT, and he worked for a big consulting firm in the US. They're still around today. And I think in fact it goes back to a completely different, the overarching topic is, what do we, as in governments, what do we see success as, right?
Right.
And now we're at a point where, certainly with Network First Manifesto, which I'm involved with, whereby we're redefining what organizations are doing, right? And actually rebuilding things from the ground up. So we've got a few pilots that are going on right now with Cornell University. A lot of people are interested in the manifesto, and it's redefining, like I say, what success is. And it's almost like now we're at a point where we can get as much information within the space of 5 minutes than we probably would have ever learned at college in 1 month, right? And we can download that with a language model in 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes, and we can run a report on something that we just thought, oh well, I like the idea of that. I'm gonna investigate it, and we can know more than 90% of the population, 99%, if we retain that information,
Yeah.
or study it within the space of a week, right? So redefining this it's really the fabric of society. And to sort of go one deeper, right? Like you go to episodes like Bridgerton. I don't know if have you watched Bridgerton?
Yeah. Yeah, I have.
Right. So in Bridgerton, for people who haven't seen it, it's a posh drama. It's an English drama where it goes back to your parents find a husband for you. They find a wife for you. They match you, right? And they introduce you to social circles where they think that you should be, right? And in fact, part of me wishes that my parents were more involved with that side of thing in many ways, but then that would make my life a failure up until this point, and it certainly isn't. I've got an amazing daughter who I wouldn't change for the world, right? But the fact is that my parents were just too busy. Yeah, they still wanted the success, but they weren't there to guide me in the direction of success, right? They thought they were, but they weren't really, because they were too busy. So it's a really difficult topic, this, really difficult and deep as well.
Yes, absolutely. And I love thank you for sharing that, first of all. And it's really nice to see. And I love how you said that the work ethic was passed down to you. So there's a lot of things that our parents gave us. And my parents were immigrants from India. And my dad would always say, because he always pushed me to go to like colleges like Cornell or Harvard and stuff. And he purposely, took out a loan and all of that. At times, I'm like, why? I love the work ethic and you work so hard, but that was the success that I thought, as a woman especially, that I was like, even till now, I tell people that I have to work so hard to earn money, and really push myself. And I was really in my masculine energy. But I realized, like, is that my definition of sex? That maybe that is my mom or my dad's definition, but it wasn't mine. And even till now, it's always the same thing of, like, to your point, matching. I'll find you a person, all of those things, which I totally understand it from their perspective, because that's what my parents an arranged marriage. But I don't believe in that, right? And it's very difficult to kind of unlearn the conditioning. Like, I'm not saying theirs is wrong, but is that who I am? Is that who I'm meant to be, right? And as an entrepreneur, no one really understood what this is. So they're like, to your point, like Nat said, ours, the traditional success is go for a job, work at corporate and consulting firm. Even now my mom is like, hey, like you can get into Microsoft, you can go into Silicon Valley. And I'm like, yes, I do have the potential, but is that where I want to go? Right. So these are probably a lot of listeners thinking like, yes, my mind is in one area, my heart somewhere else, but I want to do something that aligns with my passion and my purpose. And I don't know how to take away from all of those things. There are good things from parents, like I said. So there's good things I learned because I was born and raised in the US. So a lot of the people here taught me all of that progressive thinking. But then my parents told me the Indian values, and I took what's good, but I also made it into my definition of success, which Nat said is true happiness. And true happiness is living a fulfilling life. That's kind of what for you, it could be like financial freedom, it could be time freedom, right? And building a legacy, right? So, absolutely. I love how you talked about the definition of success. And it's definitely very difficult, but that's what we're going to talk about with the healing journey and what we need to take in from that generation, what we should not take in from that. Absolutely. And going into what you're building called Monday Influencer, we'll have to learn more about that and your global media work and how that helped you build authorities. What kind of like lessons you would or advice you would share that's more about building authority from within rather than chasing the validation?
Well, I think talking to as many people as possible who are further along than you are, perhaps on your career journey. I think that's very, very important. And just because your parents and your family don't think it's possible for you to create an entrepreneurial career doesn't mean you shouldn't try, right? Because actually everything that you do, you learn something from. Yes, we could all get jobs with technology firms, right? I could get a job with a technology firm, but I don't want to get a job with a technology firm, right? I actually want to build my own business, and that excites me to build my own business. I want to work with large corporations. I don't have a problem with large corporations at all. And actually I understand how they work, and I know a lot of people in those companies, right? But actually right now building your authority and credibility is very, very important. And you are who you spend your time with the most, in my personal opinion, offline and online. And actually, if you are in a position whereby you are confused about the right thing to do in your career, I suggest that you find a mentor. I also think that if you're not learning how these AI tools can be used for your job and for things that you enjoy in life, then you're gonna basically be left behind in a bad way, right? I think that when you pick up your phone and you talk to Gemini, and you actually have a conversation, or you have a conversation with ChatGPT, or you use Claude Cowork or Claude, and you work out that in fact language models are moving fast. They're moving faster than you probably realize. And you can create a video, you can create a movie, you could become a movie creator. There are just, in fact, so many opportunities that I think you should sit down, perhaps with a piece of paper and a pen, talk to Claude or Gemini or whatever, Grok, ChatGPT, doesn't matter, whichever language model you decide you like the most, and get it to quiz you, get it to ask you some questions, and tell it what your problems are, and have a think about it, right? And building authority is really, for me, it's about, like, you know it used to be about where you studied, who you've worked with, what awards have you won. There are lots of these things, right? So why not outline that with a language model? Sit down and say to the language model, okay, so, what should I be doing now to build authority? Okay, we'll get onto 150 podcasts in the next 6 months, or build a podcast, or build some sort of social media presence, or write some blogs, get a Substack, start writing. But the most important thing, I think, with all of this is consistency. And up until this point, we all go through ups and downs, but there must be a bare minimum consistency that you follow in terms of posting on social media, having conversations with people, etc., etc. But I tell you, you can go now to Google. You can type into Google, I want to learn about AI, and Google has many free courses you can use. If you decide, okay, well, I'm not sure what I want to do, then why not become a cybersecurity engineer? You can do that. You can earn $120,000 straight away, pretty much, if you can get a job, right? So it's like, I don't know who needs to hear this, but just worrying about your purpose, and perhaps you don't know what your purpose is gonna cause you real problems. If you're doing that, I suggest you just start where you are and focus on the good things in life that you actually do. So, for example, you might take your aunt Penelope to the shops once a week or something like that. And at the moment, that's your purpose, right? And actually, you grow into a different purpose when that purpose, you've outgrown it, right? And this is something that too many people worry about. And in my personal opinion, amassing skills is really, really important. But without having the right attitude, amassing skills doesn't make any difference in career and life success, in my personal opinion.
Absolutely. 100%. I love what you said. Is really like, what you said about like, it used to be authority was like awards and where do you work? Because that's how I was. Like 5 years ago, I was featured in, got so many awards, featured in Thrive Global, Authority magazines. I was just leading with the awards and what I do. But it didn't really reach everyone, and I didn't get the most exposure and authority I thought I did. But then
Right.
when I kind of start from the purpose, and to Nat's point, you don't want to kind of hang on that too much, but the only way you're going to know your why and purpose is the more you connect with people and you share your story. Like if you don't know it, because I've had people who are like, I don't know my purpose, like they're kind of forcing it. And I was like, just go into your lived experiences, go into your story, just kind of share your story out there. And I help others. I'm building a community called Sovereign Rise. And within that, we have a stage called Legacy Press, which we help people build their authority through literally storytelling, right? Where did they come from? And that's what this podcast is about, like sharing your voice. So where is your voice coming from? What's your story? What's your lived experiences? Who you are? Maybe it's about breaking the generational stereotypes, whatever that is, but really putting yourself out there. So having the soul's purpose with the strategy. So for example, I'm looking into paid speaking opportunities, or I was like, hey, let me bring on 30 people every month on my podcast or whatever. So this is like the 39th episode. So have numbers on it, but really put yourself out there is the first thing. And going a little deeper onto this, I know whoever's listening might have visibility blocks, which I did have. It's my next question to Nat, but going into that, we have these limiting beliefs that if I say this and if I share my story, what if someone doesn't like me? Or what if I don't build authority? Or what if I don't get that client? Right now, especially and if you, to Nat's point, if you do talk to ChatGPT and AI, it will say the same thing, is to literally, this is what's really doing well, is the storytelling piece and really owning your voice. But you need to choose the right platforms to do that, right? So getting on more podcasts, doing speaking events, even if it's for free, for summits, that's the best way to go from a place of who you are and not chase the validation, right? So it's from within. And yeah, absolutely. So I loved. And the AI, I use AI from my back end. I still ask it right now. So I was just talking to Nat before we got on the podcast, is like, hey, I want to connect with PR agents. How do I put myself out there? I just shifted niches 3 months ago from a career coach to business coaching. And I was having imposter syndrome, but I was like, let me ask ChatGPT. So have the AI use the tools, but also use your, voice as well, right? You need both. So to the next question of imposter syndrome. So I know you interviewed over 400 global leaders and public figures. So what patterns do you see in those who have truly claimed their voice versus like they're still constrained by expectations or imposter syndrome?
Well, I think that's a very good question. And, as part of my work at Monday Influencer, I'm in the process of actually curating all of these 400, well, actually 500 now interviews that we have. And I've interviewed like Stanley Tucci, I've interviewed captains of England, cricket, rugby, etc., like some of the most famous people in sports within the UK in my generation, and captains, of these teams, and very successful people just have this clear vision of what they want to achieve. They have a clear vision of what they want to achieve. And I spend a lot of time talking with Stephen J. Manning, who's my business partner at Monday Influencer. He built a substantial marketing business, and he's done billions and billions of dollars in commerce over the last 50 years of his career. And it is really just understanding that success is what you make it, right? And there is failure. It doesn't mean anything. It just means you haven't found the right route forwards. It doesn't mean you're a failure. You must understand that. And having this imposter syndrome is actually, I thought that I'd found the holy grail when it came to imposter syndrome about a few years ago. And I was like, I didn't realize that I had confidence problems. And it's not that you're an imposter. It's just that your competence and confidence have not aligned, right? And a lot of guys, right, we suffer from having something which is like, well, we can pick up a job. Okay, I'm a brain surgeon, right? We can become this sort of overinflated individual that doesn't have the skills to deliver, right? And this is the biggest problem that we face in the business world, is a lot of guys actually have something called Dunning-Kruger, which is they believe that they can just do anything. The fact is that they actually can't. And the people that realize their abilities, the people who think they're imposters, they don't really understand their abilities at all. And they actually think that they're failures, and they think that they're fake and that people are going to find out. And it's just like, and it's actually so ridiculous that on one side of the coin, you've got these people who think that they're brain surgeons. On the other side of things, you've got highly qualified, highly experienced people, and this isn't just women, it's both women and men, right? Yeah. Who are feeling like they're imposters. And in fact, Stephen and I, we talked about this a lot. And actually, over the years, I've obviously dug into this topic a lot because I'm a founder of International Imposter Syndrome Awareness Day, which we've actually paused this year because all three of the founders are all busy. And actually, it's a really good thing to pause because it's given us time to reflect. I mean, we've been running that now for 5 years, right? So we understand, we've dug through every single topic you could think of. And what started out with imposter syndrome, for me, actually dug into my beliefs about myself. And those beliefs are interesting because if you think about your phone, right? You got this device, this supercomputer here, and it's running on hopefully up-to-date software. Otherwise, you might have security risks, right? But your brain, you never upgrade your software in your brain. You've got a brain here that is running in some cases on 50-year-old software that is basically sitting there, and you are a product of those programs that are running subconsciously in your brain. And I'm literally, I've been studying this now for probably about 14 years, I'd say, maybe a little bit longer. I got to a point where the other day I was sitting down and I was like, I had this routine where I would write down something that I thought about myself in the morning. So I'd wake up, and if I thought something negative about myself, I would write it down. And I would violently cross it out and I would write the opposite. And what I realized is that actually that doesn't work. It doesn't work. Okay. And weirdly enough, I was on TikTok, and because I'm building a TikTok account, right? And I was on TikTok and I found this gentleman, And he gave me the best process that I've actually ever come across on TikTok, right? And it was this. So you write down what you're thinking, okay, about yourself. Then what you do is you write, I used to think this, and then you list whatever it is that you used to think. Then what you do is you put, and now I am choosing to believe the total opposite.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
for me, I've been doing that about 2 or 3 weeks, and actually the change in my life in 2 to 3 weeks from doing that has been actually incremental. So if you're listening to this and you're like, wow, like really, that's kind of weird. Well, why don't you try it?
Yeah.
Right? Try it, because you are upgrading your software all the time. Whether someone tells you something good about yourself, someone tells you something bad about yourself, you need to take note of that. And if you're working with people who are, I'm not going to say passive aggressive because that's the wrong attitude, but if they're negative and they make you feel bad about yourself, then you need to be very aware what you're taking into your brain, because actually if you're not, then you're basically allowing suffering into your life because you're not taking control. And a lot of this programming can come from your parents and what they think about you. It can come from the TV. It can come from a kid that beat you up when you were at school. It can
Yeah.
it can come from pretty much anywhere, right? But until you understand what it is and get to grips with it, you're basically being you're being held hostage by this computer that is running in the back of your brain, and it runs your life. You might think that you're in control of your life, but you're not actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I love this because, like you said, you have to upgrade like the brain and everything and the mind. It's really a mindset shift. And this is the first thing I teach as a coach is the first thing is you have to shift your mindset. And it's like a constant practice every day. I still do it. And it's been 6 years that I'm doing this. So it's literally like you go to the gym, you flex your muscle, you have to flex that every single day. And I love what you said thing that I share with my clients where, yeah, literally even my own mentor, because I'm going to the next level of identity shifts. And the more you keep rising, the more you have to keep doing the mindset work, right? There's different stages. And I keep saying to myself recently, now that I just shifted a new niche, I was like, I hope. I always say, I hope, I might. And then he was like, shift the language, Mina. Like, you're already there, right? And I know whoever is listening, some of these people are soul aligned. So if you want to call it manifestation, literally they're like, like you already have everything. You just need to say, I'm choosing, like to Nat's point. When I shifted that, even now, speaking of AI, I have an assistant called Lindy. So it's pretty cool. It's like literally an AI, like VA. And I said, hey, can you like send me these affirmations that like I am this, I am that, like a mindset thing to overcome my imposter syndrome for the next level of my stage in my career. And it sent me a lot of things. And I just keep reading it. And I also reframe it. If I'm this weekend, I wrote down like what Nat did. Why am I feeling this way? And I had to go back into, again, we talked about the healing. Where are these beliefs coming from? And to Nat's point, it literally for me came from my parents mostly. Because my parents were following the whole traditional mindset of, okay, well, now like you're 34 almost, you should be married by now. Why aren't you married? Why are you doing this? Right. And I had to shift, like, so for a woman who's listening, it doesn't matter. There's no age that you have to be married at. You can be an entrepreneur. You can be a millionaire at 34 or 40. So these are things that I had to reframe. So to your point, the mindset shift is really the key for your imposter syndrome, but it has to be consistent. And you have to do that every day. And that is something that's like a non-negotiable, like you're going to the gym. And it's in the beginning when you are starting personal growth or mindset shifts, it's going to be uncomfortable. Absolutely. But, to Nat's point, like people are like, is this going to work? Only if you try, you will know. So Nat saw like a lot of growth in 3 weeks. I've helped clients who saw in the same within 3 weeks. I've grown my whole entire business in 3 months by doing this, right? So it really works. So absolutely. And it really
Yeah.
comes from that generational conditioning. And, I can go way deeper into this, but you do need to journal. If you're a woman or even a man, like I told my partner the same thing, like men need to be more aware of where this is coming from and, practice that, right? So, absolutely. And going into the current challenges, I know we had talked about imposter syndrome. So, I mean, I know the mindset shift and the mindset practice is one thing that they can take the next step, like a practical step. But I know it's going to be very difficult when they go out in the world, whether it's especially with men, right? And I see a lot of this. But how can individuals stay grounded in their own truth without being pulled back into societal or family expectations? Because I know that is very difficult, and I'm also going through that. But what would you recommend in this case?
Well, I think if you're not ready to speak to people, actually, and every time you talk to them, they are telling you that you should do something else, you should just stop talking to them.
Yeah.
And if you're living with them, then that's pretty much impossible. So I think you should just move, frankly. And I know that sounds quite brutal, but you can choose your friends, you can't choose your family, and you might love them very much, but actually if you want to take control of your life, you don't need these negative Nancys telling you that what you're doing isn't going to work. I appreciate you might not have everything lined up. You might not have your business model laid up. You might not not have your product market fit yet. Your pricing might be wrong, your promotion might be wrong, but actually having that person who's continually negative towards you, it destroys the creative process and the sunshine, which is basically what is going to bring you through this current situation into success, and whatever success looks like for you. And the fact is that if you have a vision for what you want to achieve, you need to wake up in the morning. What I do, my morning routine is very different to a lot of people. So I think it's all built on your morning routine. Your day is built on your morning routine, right? And also before you go to bed. I believe in God very, very strongly, right? So I have a faith that is guiding me on my decisions, guiding me in the direction that I am heading. So when I wake up in the morning, I read the Bible, then I take out a pad and I basically write down the 10 goals that I have for 2026, and I write them down every morning. Sometimes they come out in a different order than they did the day before, but I write those down. That is something that for me really keeps me focused on what I need to achieve. What you might find is that yes, you might be slightly late in certain commitments for other things, but actually God is never late, right? God's timing is always on point. But the more you hang out with these negative people, the more you listen to self-development nonsense that encourages you to meditate and do nothing, which is what most of it seems to do. The lawn is not going to mow itself unless you've got an electric lawnmower and you've programmed it and it's got power, right? You cannot meditate and the lawn will not mow itself, okay? So you have to do the work. If you don't do the work, you're basically lost. And I know that sounds harsh and it's aggressive, but the fact is that you need to be aggressive if you're going to move forwards, because sitting there and accepting your situation without taking immediate action, once you know what action to take, it means that you can write your goals down every day. If you don't talk to people, you don't network with people, you don't learn new skills, you will not get to achieve your goals. So yeah, I mean, Stephen, my mentor, is massive on action, right? He's literally massive on action. And, and sometimes I feel like I'm slowing him down, right? But actually, like I say, is God's timing, in my personal opinion.
Absolutely. I love how everything that said the right thing, right? And I love that is number one is action, right? And to your point, it's very important. Yes, there is thing on meditation. It's nice, right? And I'm not saying it isn't, but at the same time, right after that, you need to take action. And for the past 3 months, I took like legit rapid action, rapid growth. I just put myself out there. I didn't know what I was doing. I changed my niche. And this goes into imposter syndrome. Whoever's listening, you might have that perfectionism thing going on, which I did have. And my mentor was like, Vina, like nothing's perfect, right? You just need to put yourself out there. My mentor was similar to Nat, was like, go get those people, go start the podcast, do it, and then we can refine. And as women, we tend to like hesitate. And I think that's a little difficult for women. But when you start putting yourself out there and you really talk to people like Nat, you're like, oh my God, like I'm getting this feedback. It's good. You build your confidence, you get more clarity, and you need to refine. You know how many times I refined my stuff in the past 2 months, but it kept growing and I kept evolving, and that's how you learn. But at the same time, there are going to be moments of like, I don't want anyone to burn out. This is not about burnout, though, or overwhelm, but you might want to slow down at times. And to Nat's point, and my own business partner just told me this because I'm similar to Nat. Like, I need to finish something, I have goals to achieve. And she said, like, sometimes it's okay to slow down, but it's divine timing, right? Things didn't work out. I'm also very faith driven. Everything is God for me. And at times, my own to generational conditioning. And I do agree, like, first of all, change your environment. There are going to be a lot of people who are against you, or you have admirers, but you're going to have people who are haters. They're not going to support you. As especially entrepreneurs, I'm going to be very truthful. And I love how Nat was like really like, blunt about it. That's absolutely right. These are some truths. No one supported me. I didn't have, but I was like, I just need to take action, believe in myself, right? So the belief is very important. Change your environment. I networked with people who are like 5 times better than me, who have a better network. I didn't even know who these people were, but I just went for it. And now we're both successful and we're doing it. So yes, environment, who you talk to, the people is so, so, so important because they literally influence how you look at yourself, right? So absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing that, Nat. And yeah, so going into these patterns, so being aware of these patterns and healing from it. So all starts from that too, and going into the action steps. You need both, right? Strategy and the self-awareness and personal growth. So when it comes to legacy, and I know some people are not focusing on this as much, and I think it's common for high achieving like men or women, but how can emerging leaders think beyond achievement and begin creating something that's deeply aligned, intentional, and like lasting though, like more sustainable?
That's interesting. It reminds me of a video I saw the other day, a viral video when a young girl approached Mike Tyson. And I don't know if you've seen it, but she approached Mike Tyson and she said, well, what legacy are you leaving? And he literally started swearing, right? And he was like, I don't believe in that. It's all rubbish. Da, 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 da. And what he said made me really question the word legacy, right? It made me question the entire thing because it's like, look, if you think about how many grains of sand there are in the Sahara Desert, right? You're basically going to be one of those grains of sand. So actually, yes, you can do great things and you can help people in life and you can do lots of things, right? I mean, look, my grandfather in America, when he used to run this factory, donated like $1 million to charity over his life, right? But I'm the only one that remembers that now. I'm the only one that talks about that now, right? But each of us, we all make an impact on other people. And my attitude is if you can make a positive impact, doesn't matter who it is, but if you can make a positive impact on one person, just
Right.
one person, then the world is better for you in it, right? And all this legacy stuff, yeah, you can do something useful and you can do great things, but actually if you just help that one person, maybe that one person is going to go on to do something amazing, and your light, your spark will never be remembered, right? So actually the concept of it needs reimagining, in my opinion. And it was just interesting that Mike Tyson swearing, right? Because I love Mike Tyson's boxing style, right?
Right.
And I like his attitude. And he's one of the fittest men for his age in the world, right? He's like what, 57 or something, and he is jacked, yeah. And it's like he's inspiring people. But in 3-4 generations, yes, they're going to remember who he was, right? And yes, there'll be lots of content that he has delivered. But actually, no one will really know him anymore. he'll be just that icon who was incredible, who spoke his mind and went to jail and did all these insane things. And it's just, I just find it really odd. That whole concept is just,
Right.
it's just odd now. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I do agree with everything you're saying because I think there's the one like societal definition of legacy, and then we kind of are redefining it. And I do agree with everything, right? Legacy is literally just like whatever our families passed down, but not really passed down like everything. What we learn from them, we make it our own and we're passing it down, right? And that's the whole generational healing and all of that. But also to your point, if it's just one person, and that's why this podcast is called Voice of Impact, because even if it's one person listening and they're like, I can resonate and I'm inspired to take action, that's literally what it is. And that's my mission and that's my legacy, right? That's what I name it as well. And anything like I used to think like, oh my God, maybe I need to do something and I work so hard for it. Like we're used to that like societal thing, right? But I was like, and even now, like everyone's like, what's the point of the podcast, you know? And I was like, it's just to impact one person who's listening. And everyone who came on the podcast believed the same. Like, I just want one person to listen and be like, hey, that inspired me. And that's what I'm here to do. And that's what Nat's here to do. So thank you so much. And yeah, we have these big terms that we think is like Mike Tyson said, where it's just simplify it and just keep it so simple. Like impact just it could be
It's
any
just so funny. I'm sorry. You've got to watch it. It's literally hilarious because she was
Mhm.
just so surprised at his response, and it was just maybe it was a fake, right? But it was just so on point. I was literally like, actually, it was just the smartest thing that anyone's ever said about legacy, in my
Right.
opinion. It was just
Yeah.
quite crazy, really.
Yeah, just keep it simple, and I like that. Yeah, just impact one person and just keep going, right? Like literally, that's what it is. Because we like make everything so complex and useful, even like when it comes to entrepreneurship. And like that's what I help with. Like people are like, write this content every day, like do this, and making it so harder. And I had to unlearn everything, and I'm just putting my presence out there. And especially for women who are listening, it's really your energy, your presence that does the talking. It's that simple, right? And so literally just your presence and your energy and your story just want impact one person. That's your legacy, right? So absolutely. And love this conversation. What's next for you, Nat? Anything that you're building, initiatives, anything
Yeah,
else?
I'm focusing on Monday Influencer, which is exciting. I'm really enjoying the journey with Stephen at the moment. We're rebuilding everything from the ground up so that we can deliver more incredible product, actually, because it is incredible. We've got so much great information there that actually we're really quite excited about it. So that's amazing. I'm building a great body for when I hit 50 in July, 80% there. So I'm
Yeah.
kind of quite happy about that. Just been, just getting into MMA a bit more and just lifting and I went for a walk out today. It's what are we? We're April now, so it was just lovely to go for a walk. So I'm going to be a bit more visible online. I'm going to do a lot more videos and I'm really enjoying who I'm working with now, and it's exciting, and I'm just about to send a book proposal off to someone about careers because I've got a really cool career book that's bubbling around my brain, and so I need, I've got a list of 3 things. I've only done one of them today, and so and obviously Network First Manifesto. We're working on getting that wrapped up and boxed up into something quite exciting so that people can go and use it, much like the agile methodology or lean and stuff like that. So that's quite exciting, more than exciting, actually. And because we're at a point now with AI where, in fact, the world is either a very dangerous place for you or it's actually you being a child in a sweet shop in terms of your career. And the fact is that you make that choice. And I'm worried for a lot of people, but I'm also excited for the people that are at the front end of that, because actually you can create the life that you want now quite easily. A lot more. It's the world of work is changing, and it's very, very exciting. Yeah, lots of stuff that I'm doing. Right,
Yeah.
it's good. It's good.
You're
So
like
thank
me.
you,
So yeah, this
thank
is
you.
great. No, I'm so excited for you. I love how you talked about like nearing 50 and working out and being fit. That's inspiring to, I'm pretty sure, anyone who's listening. And I also, Nat told me about the Network First Manifesto, which I did join. So whoever is listening, I would definitely recommend it.
Cool.
So lots of great stuff. Thank you so much. And I would love to do a fun rapid fire round to get to know you on a personal level. So quick answers. Let's see. A country you love returning to.
Belize.
I haven't actually been there, but okay. That's amazing.
Good question. I had to think there. There are a lot, to be fair.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. I love that. Okay, so something that instantly puts you in a good mood.
Training.
Yeah, my partner always says that too, so that's amazing. Awesome. And let's see, a city life or a quiet retreat. Which one
Oh,
is?
definitely quiet retreat.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I'm always in the city life, and I'm like, oh my god, I want to go into like retreats and a quiet place. So hopefully that'll happen soon.
There's something about the birds in the morning. Like literally, I can even hear birds singing now, right? Outside my
Mhm.
place. Like birds just sing all day. Like I
Right.
don't really hear noise here at all. It's just birds. Or there are these jackals. There's like a pack of jackals somewhere around. I don't know where they are, but I'm certainly not going out to find them in the middle of the night. Thank you. They sound like wolves, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's not what I want to be seeing in the middle of the night. Thanks. But yeah, love the country life, to be honest. But there
Yeah.
is something about being close to a city that's very convenient.
That's true. Yeah, because I'm in the DC area in the US, so it's like always city life, or I've been in New Jersey. And then there's the opposite where my family's from, which is like California, the Bay Area, and they're always like near a beach. So that's kind of like what I want to go into. So I think it's like nice to have both, but yeah, and I can agree. Even for me, there's always birds chirping, and I see like two, three deer in my backyard. So that comes in.
Oh,
So
that's nice. That's
yeah, so
nice.
it's like the nature is really nice. Question. So, if you could have dinner with anyone, past or present, who would it be?
Steve Jobs.
Oh, yes. That would be amazing, honestly. Yeah. And I have a lot of questions too, so I love that. Great answer. Well, Nat, this was such a powerful and meaningful conversation. So, thank you so much for your insights and your presence. So, what stands out most is this reminder that not everything we've been taught to carry is ours to keep. Then, when we begin to question these inherited expectations, we don't just create change for ourselves, but we shift what's possible for the generations that come out. And that's where true legacy begins. But, like to Nat's point, it's just making an impact even on one person. Right. So, for everyone listening, this is your invitation to reflect on what you have been unconsciously inherited and what becomes possible when you choose your own truth instead. This is what me and Nat, that's what we did. And as we continue these conversations on Voices of Impact, this is the deeper work behind Sovereign Rise that I'm building. A movement for leaders and visionaries who are ready to redefine success, reclaim their voice, and consciously create a legacy rooted in alignment, not expectation. So until next time, trust your voice, release what no longer serves you, and lead from what feels true. And thank you for being part of Voices of Impact.